it's like I already know you, man. Like, because we kind of interact, and you give me some feedback on some stuff too. But I really like kind of what you're doing, and I think for me, what resonated, I think most is just that positive attitude. But then also, I think one of the things that I really like, and we'll talk about this, all of this too, is but then you talk about some of the hardships and things that you've gone through. Especially with your wife. You talk. That's one of your pinned posts, and a lot of people don't like to do that. And I think it just shows that humanity and that we're all kind of, we're all imperfect humans, and there's always a way, to do that next best thing. So before we do that, Tyler, introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and we'll go from there.
Thanks. Well, Brian, first off, you're an ex friend, and I was like, bro, I thought, why makes us ex friend, like ex friends? And I'm, oh, wait, X. Yeah. We're calling it X, not Twitter. So
we're not friends anymore.
that tripped me up, man. But yeah, man, I really appreciate and grateful to be on here, Brian. You're a great dude. I always like interacting with you online and everything about you. My name's Tyler Todt. I've been posting on social media for about 5 years now. I managed a bank for about 6 years before that. Professional poker player for a decade before that. Built a pretty good following, kind of on accident, several 100,000 followers across X and YouTube. And yeah, man, run my own business. Have a couple coaching cohorts that I run people through, a men's group that I run live events and retreats out here in Vegas several times a year. Running a big conference out here this year, man, that we're pretty hyped for. Got some awesome speakers and guests. And so, yeah, man, I didn't really know what I was doing in business, didn't go to school for business, anything like that. It's just kind of been a hire mentors, learn as I go kind of thing. But super grateful to get to wake up every day, work with awesome people I love, feel like I'm making an impact, choose that positivity, kind of share my life, man, and get better with people. That's kind of my thing, man.
So how did you get to doing what you're doing now? I mean, there's a lot of different pieces. I didn't know you were a poker player, right? But there's in this online world, I was talking to Clifton from Legacy Builder, and I think he went out. Didn't he go out to one of your things?
He's been on a retreat, and then we co-ran one together after that. He's an amazing dude. I love that guy.
He's a great dude, and he helps me with some content, and I've just been following him for a long time. I love his story, and it's just one of those things that you see somebody like Clifton or you, and you're like, oh my gosh, Clifton's got 300,000 followers. You've got this. He's got Legacy Builder. You've got 200 and some thousand followers. So it's like, how do I, that wasn't always the case, but how did you, I kind of want to know, like, after you were done at the bank, how did you even know what to do and how to start to, because what you do, I mean, it's, to people that are online a lot, I think they seem like everyone's a coach, right? Everyone's doing these retreats. Everyone's doing this, right? Yeah. Even me, like here I go down that path as well. But how did you really come up with, this is what I want to do? And maybe you didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know at the time. So I was managing a bank and at Chase Bank. And to be honest, I'd been doing it for 2 or 3 years and I wasn't super healthy my first couple of years. I took a low performing branch to high and I put my best energy into that, but I gained 20 pounds. I was winning at the job and kept getting promotions, but man, I was losing at health. My marriage was not good. Never felt present. Things weren't good. And so I remember one night just saying, I gotta make a change, right? I got wealth is defined in more than just money and this. I want to win at health, win at my marriage. So I got addicted. And when I say addicted, I mean addicted to self-improvement. I probably read 30 books and took 50 notebooks full of pages. I hired a mentor, Zach Hommel, who's on Twitter, and just said, you know what, everybody wakes up and says, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. I'm 41 now. And I feel like for 41-year-olds, not doing bad. I just like, I'm going to change my life. I didn't even know what that meant. And so I had just found some positive guys like Zach Hommel, Zuby, Ryan Stevens on Twitter. And I said, you know what, man, these guys just put good things out into the world. I'm just going to start tweeting and sharing what I'm learning. I had no intention of coaching, selling anything. I just said, hey, man, I see these guys helping a lot of people. I remember saying a prayer and saying, hey, God, maybe this is a way out of the bank. I don't know, but just help me help people. And that's how I went into this, just to serve. And can I just provide value for people? I never made a penny my first, I think, 8 to 9 months. It took me 6 months to grow 600 followers. And then I had one kind of viral one go. And I remember like a year in, I had maybe 6,000 or 7,000. And then people started asking me in my DMs, hey, will you coach me and help me with some, I've seen you change your body. Because I'm just documenting in real time, right? And like, right. Here's what I'm reading, here's what I'm learning, here's what I'm applying. And so Zach Hommel gave me the best advice. When people started asking me how to coach them, I said, I've never been a coach. I don't know. And he said, well, Ty, what can separate you from other people is just sharing your story. And I don't ever think of content, brother. I've tweeted 242,000 times in 5.5 years. Never one time, and I mean this sincerely, have I thought, what content am I going to put out? It's my life. So I wake up every day, and this was like a Joe Rogan quote where he's like, just pretend like 1 million people with a camera crew are following you. How intentional would you be? How hard would you run the sprints? How would you slack on the weights?
Like you're being videoed, right?
Yeah,
right.
Would you be the dad that just chills on the couch and is like scram? Or are you going to get up and take him for a walk and play and do all the things, right? And so I've just documented that as I went along. I coached the first 9 people for $25 a month and just told them flat out, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm going to learn. And then I started seeing some results. I had a client, one of those guys that paid me $25, lost 44 pounds in like 6 months. I had another guy and I just realized that this is what I love to do. And I remember just writing down there, I think I got something. Mm-hmm. And so then it just became even a bigger obsession, right? I remember the day I came home from the bank and told my wife, I said, in a couple years, this is what I'm going to be doing. And she's like, Twitter? I'm like, yes. I know. And so then I just got out a notebook, and it was, fail a few times, keep going, pivot, kind of find your niche. I definitely failed 4 or 5, the first things I tried. But I learned at each of those things too, right? I always say it's only a failure if you quit. And so, 5.5 years later, you're like an overnight success, right?
Yeah, I know. I love that quote too. There's a guy, Stephen Pressfield, he wrote War of Art. And he said a quote right there. And it really, cause I'm 51 and he read a quote and he's like, I was an overnight success, but at age 55. It's because he kept going. I mean, he kept going at all costs. He didn't have a book out that was, worth anything at that point. So it's not just health. I mean, I know that's a big piece of what you're doing in health and it, what are those things? I guess, first of all, let's talk about the health piece, because I know that's an important part. And for me, like I always tell, my staff and anybody that wants to start a business, like if you're going to be a CEO and run a business, like you have to make sure that you're taking care of your health. Now, does that mean you have to run marathons? No. Does that mean you have to go to the gym 5 days a week? No. But do you need to move? Do you need to eat better? I mean, all those things are important to keep you running like a machine, because your clients and your customers want you there for. So let's start with that. Like how, what are these problems that people that you're coaching are coming to you with as far as health is concerned, and how do you then help them do that?
Yeah, I think it was the same thing where I was at, right? Where my best energy, and I think this comes from a lot of societal programming as men, especially. We're programmed that like, dude, we get dopamine hits when we get paychecks, when we get raises and bonuses. And if you ever hear a conversation with guys, it's like, well, what do you do? And they're kind of measuring you up, right? Like how much money you make, that's kind of how a lot of men define their worth. And so I remember sitting in a marriage counseling session, and I literally said this to the counselor and my wife. I said, I've been promoted 4 times in 2 years. What more do you want? And my wife's like, well, you dummy,
we want you. We don't want you to be promoted. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I think a lot of guys just get tunnel vision on what success is. And I think to a lot of people, success is like more, and they never pump the brakes and ask themselves. And so the first thing I think it starts with is clarity. And I ask people to say, man, if I was a magic genie in a year from now, like I can just make it happen. What's your body look like ideally? Now, look, man, I sit here at maybe 14, 15% body fat. I've gotten down to 6 at one point in my life. And that wasn't ideal for me. That wasn't winning. I couldn't eat ice cream with my kids. I could never have date nights with my wife and eat dinner.
It's fun.
So it's like, to me, winning is like being in shape, healthy, and high energy, the way I want to be, right? For other people, it is running multiple marathons. But you got to have that clarity of what do I really want out of life? And then you got to say no to a lot of other things.
Yeah, right.
So, you cannot win at everything. And you have to make sure your best energy is going to those things. So a real easy way for guys is like, I get up at 5 a.m. every day. That's just a non-negotiable. Even on most off days, I still get up and stretch and read my Bible and fill myself up. Because once we get going, man, the world's going to take from us. So fill your own cup first. But I think it starts with that clarity piece, man. And I always tell guys, you can be world-class at 4 or 5 things. You can't be world-class at 15 things. So for me, it's going to be faith. It's going to be fitness, which is mind and body and spirit. It's going to be finances. It's going to be my family and my relationships. That's it. I don't know about politics. I don't know what's going on with even like the Twitter algorithm and things like that. I don't keep up with any of this other stuff. I'm going to be world class at those things. And I say no to a lot of other things. I get asked on like 100 podcasts every month. And I say no to 99 of them, man. But I love you, Brian.
Hey, I can't believe it. I made the list.
But you know what I mean?
No,
It's, you have to have those boundaries to say no, because every time you're saying yes, it's taken away from the bigger mission, right?
yeah, and saying no is powerful, but it's tough. I think, especially for people, like you and I, and people like I used to be an educator. Now I've run a business for 14 years. And so, like, we always want to give back. I'm a father, I'm a husband. Our job has always been to give, give, give. And so saying no is not in our nature. Because we and I don't care how you look at it, if you're the provider or you're not the provider or whatever, it's still, I think your job is to make sure that you're there to support your family, and then that could go down to your however many kids you have and your relatives, but also too in your business. Like, I feel like there's a need to support my staff when they need it. Now,
Sure.
how do you feel bad and about saying no, and how do you know?
Yeah, me and my wife have a saying, man. We're like, there's only going to be a couple people around your deathbed. It's going to be my
Yeah.
wife and my kids. So we're going to keep our circle pretty small. And just to give an example of how extreme I am about this, I would say my best friend is Mike Schiff, and we co-run our men's group together. We talk every day online. We've known each other for many years. He's from Alabama. He came into Vegas for 3 days. This is maybe a year ago. One of those days was date night with my wife. And I told Mike, I love you, man. You got to find something else to do for 4 or 5 hours. It's sacred. Me and my wife have date night. I love you to death. I'll see you in the morning for a workout. But like, I'm going to win at my stuff. And you're either going to have to be a friend that understands that. And I'll be real honest with you, man. Some people don't. Yeah. Like the day that 6 years ago, when I literally text some of my friend group and said, hey, I'm not going to bars anymore. They just kept hey, man, meet us here for the game. Hey, man, I'm busy. I'm grinding. I'm working on my stuff. I'm not going to be 65 and still working at this corporation. Like, I'm going to fire my company. I remember telling people that, and did it at 37. Yeah. And I'm going to live life on my own terms. Some of them are, oh, you think you're better, this or that. No, yeah. Man. You can meet me at the gym. You can meet me at the park, but you got to sort of integrate with what I'm doing now. And then some people just come into your life for seasons. And that's what I've realized. And you got to be okay with that, right? And I'm going to root for everybody and love everybody and build everybody up. And not everybody needs to do what I'm doing. That's fine. But if you kind of want to go to where I'm going, we got to have a similar mindset. Like, again, some of my best friends I might see 2-3 times a year. Right. That's okay with me. During this season, it's a push season,
Yeah, and I noticed that too when I, because I kind of stopped doing that same thing. Like, it wasn't going to the bars anymore. I wasn't doing certain things, and it was kind of at first they kept asking, and now it's funny, after a few years, they're starting to go, tell me a little bit about that.
I always say it's day one. This guy's a fool. What an idiot. Yeah. Day 100, like, look at him. He still don't know what he's doing. What a dummy. Day 1,000, hey, bro, can you teach me? Yeah. It's kind of how it usually happens.
I have a great friend, Eric, and it took him a while. And he finally made that call. And I thought the call was going to be like, dude, you got to get here, whatever. And he's like, hey, I want to get out of this kind of bar scene kind of thing and try to do. He was getting close to retirement. He's like, I want to do something. And can we go meet for coffee? I'm like, yeah, man, absolutely. And so, yeah, it was cool. And it was great. I mean, he's just doing such a great job with it too, man. But
that's the coolest thing to me, man, is like bringing others up around you. Cause that's the thing I'm most proud about my time at the bank. Like, my first couple years there, I was not a great version of myself. And then I got addicted to self-improvement. I started walking on my lunch break. I started taking breaks, push-up breaks in the I started meal prepping and eating healthy every day. I had one guy named Chance who's 52 pounds, just working side by side with me for 14 months. He fired Chase, and now he works only part-time, 20 hours a week, this guy at like 35, right? Just because we would talk side hustles and business and how to create income. And I had another lady who was 60, man, and she said, I need to lose 20 pounds to be able to play with my grandkids. I can't play with them. And 6 months later, she's lost 20 pounds just walking on her lunch break, walking on breaks, eating healthier, like, to help her with that. And so, I wasn't the best bank manager. It wasn't like my passion, to be honest, but I love people and I always love coaching people. And so I look back at that with some of the most proudest things I had is like bringing those other people up with you, like your buddy, man, that, wants to come along, and then you see success and that you love that,
I bet there's a poster in the break room with your picture on it at Chase Bank saying, do not call this guy because they're starting to lose employees.
Yeah, man, it's a funny thing, and not everybody gets you. I was not liked by some of the employees because some people don't like the intense. Like I'm a pretty
Yeah.
intense, I can be chill, but like I'll never forget we got this new guy transferred over to one of my branches, bro, and I'm in the break room doing push-ups. I have 10 minutes, so I'm hammering him out, and he walks in, and he's only been here like 4 days, and he goes, "Hey Ty," like he's this young kid, like 24, 25. He goes, "Hey Ty, like, can I ask you something?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's up, man?" And he goes, "What are you training for?" And I sprung up and I go, "Life, brother, it's happening right now. It's life, man." Like, some people ain't gonna vibe with that
No, yeah,
sort of
that's a little much.
intensity.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. Once I flipped that switch in my mind, man, I hate to say this, but most people are just on autopilot, and whatever happens to them, they accept it. Well, my boss said this, so I got to do this. Well, my company says this, so I got to do this. And one day I just flipped a switch and said, I'm gonna drive my own life. And I don't care what I have to give up. And I don't care that I get up at 5 a.m. every day and I don't go to bed till 10:30 at night because I work the 8:30 to 10:30 shift after my family goes to bed for years. I'm going to create the kind of life. Like I did this activity I called Perfect Day. And I sat with my wife and we outlined what would our perfect day look like. And I said, I'm going to get up at 5 and work out, read the Bible, do my stuff. I'm going to spend time with the family. I want to be the dad that gets to drop the kids at school and high fives them, tells them have a great day. Then I want to come home and take a walk with my wife. 30, 40, 50-minute walk, just start the day like that. Then I want to work for a few hours on the things I love with people I love that making a difference. Then I want to be home with my family the rest of the day and maybe work 1 or 2 nights a week, just kind of on my own. But that's the life I want. And we said this 6 years ago, man, and that's pretty much exactly what her and I do now.
Mm-hmm.
And so this wasn't easy. This we downgraded our lifestyle a lot. I got an 11-year-old car parked out there. I got no fancy watches, any of this stuff. But we are time rich and we get to live life on our own terms. And I think it started with that clarity of what life do we really want? What's important to us?
Yeah, and I think we're all afraid. That's interesting too. I mean, the car, the watch, the downgrading too. And I think at the end of the day, I can't remember the movie, but I'm a big movie guy, but there's a quote that says, dying, being an old man filled with regrets, and I think the regrets that people have, I don't think that the regrets are, I never got that really nice car. I never lived in this really nice house. I don't think people have those type of regrets. I think they have regrets. Man, I wish I would have spent more time, and I even do. My boys are 20 and 25 and they're off doing their own things. They're super successful, doing great. I feel, and my wife is always really good about, reminding me how much time that we spent, but I just don't remember. I'm thinking it was, it went so fast. And, but, I did a good job, but still for me, I'm just thinking, man, what if instead of, doing this, I would have spent more time with them doing this, because it goes by so fast. So I think that's the thing most people regret. And so doing that, how would, somebody who's listening to this right now, I mean, the thing that's going on in their head right now, they're like, well, so they're at Chase Bank and they're the manager that replaced you, right? And they're like, dude, like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, I don't even know where to begin. And I don't even know if I have anything to give, and I guess we're not saying that everybody needs to quit their jobs and go start on X, right? That's not what we're saying. But can I do this and still work a regular job?
Yeah, I think, man, like number one, I think that's an important point. I knew bank managers that were so happy being bank managers. They were really good at it too. And they built people up and they would promote people along. And I know, like a Joe Nice was a guy that I worked with. And I used to come home to my wife and say, I almost wish I could just be like him. Like he was so happy and fulfilled in this role. But there was something deep in me that knew I wasn't supposed to do this. There's something in me. And I think I always say this to people, man, if you don't know what you were created for and what those gifts inside you are, don't watch another TV show. Like don't zone out and watch sports. Don't, man. And this is what I got obsessed with, was finding my purpose.
Yeah.
And I filled notebooks of just journaling, asking myself a lot of questions. If I had all the money in the world, what would I do? Again, what would a perfect day look like for me? If money wasn't involved, what would I work on? And when I started asking myself these questions, and I realized at Chase Bank, the part of the job I loved was helping people lose weight. It didn't really have much to do with banking, or helping people almost like get out of the job and live a life that they really wanted. And I realized I had a passion for this. I would get more excited about their wins than they would. And I feel like that was a big thing that's just been in me since I was 6 years old, man. I love team sports. I was the point guard that like loved to get an assist and see the guy score more than I wanted to score. I've always been that guy. And so I don't think everybody was made to be an entrepreneur. It's a hard life. It's
Yeah.
not, it looks glamorous on X when you're, I tweet a couple hours a day. And no, man,
Yeah.
it's working, like
Right.
even when you're not working, you're working, you're grinding, right? But not everybody needs to do that. But I think everybody needs to know why they're here. And again, you mentioned that deathbed. Nobody's going to get to the end of their life and be like, bro, I just wish I would have watched like Game of Thrones all the way through a couple more times.
Yeah. Oh man, I spent way too much time with my kids doing nothing.
Yeah, like it's, even like, a stay-at-home mom can have so much purpose every day. I see like my wife making crafts for the kids and these activities and reading to all the things, man, that like stay-at-home mom think is the most important job. That can be during that season, like where all of your energy and focus is going, but just be really intentional about it. Be great at that thing. And then maybe share it on X. Hey, here's what we're doing. And maybe you build a following too, maybe not. But like, having that clarity, I think is the first step. And so starting to ask yourself a lot of those questions.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the cheat code for me too is just hiring a mentor. It was Zach Hommel for me. That saved me, I would say, a decade worth of, before him. I think I failed at my first 3 or 4 tries of business and trying to do this route or that route. He was 9 years farther ahead of the journey than I was. I've been running his own business and kind of doing what I wanted to do. To be able to just pay him, a few $1,000s and get to pick his brain on that and ask him questions in real time. Every successful person I know has mentors, and they have people that are a little farther ahead in the journey. I can't everybody always thinks like, oh, that's a scam or this or that. And I'm like, bro, I'd rather pay somebody who's farther ahead to teach me than almost anything at this point in my life.
Yeah. And that's that's something that I think we should still talk about and think about, because I think a lot of people that I've talked to, entrepreneurs and business owners, like, I think we feel like sometimes we don't have much to offer. We're just kind of doing this. Like, I'm just kind of running this marketing agency and doing the coaching program. I don't really have anything to offer and like right now my staff doesn't let me make logos or anything because I'm awful at it, right? They don't even let me touch the video equipment anymore. Like, dude, I'll put it away. And that's my background. But so I'm like here at this level, and I'm not really, I'm not doing anything. When I was talking to my mentor and John, and I said, man, I don't know if I have anything to offer anymore. Like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just kind of making sure that everybody's okay and the business is running. I'm doing sales. He's like, well, what do you like to do? I said, man, I love solving problems in a creative way. I think that's kind of my superpower. And he's like, that's what you do all day long. And he's like, you got to remember that most people don't run businesses. Now, I think, with you and I who are in this and other business owners that we talk to, we just assume everyone's like us because all we see are people that, one, either A, we help, that sometimes become better than us, or B, that are way light years ahead of us. So we just assume, when in all reality, most people don't. But how do you figure out? Because most people that I've talked to, they don't know. I've got a lot of friends who are teachers who are starting to think about retirement, and they're like, we have no idea what the hell to do. Like, what are we going to do next? Like, all we've ever done is teach. So how do you figure that out? How do you figure out, not that you're all going to quit your job and whatever, but how do you find out? Because I think we're all looking for purpose.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing. Why a lot of young men, I would say, especially nowadays, are very unhappy. They work jobs they don't feel like they're purposeful in, and they just kind of get up and do it without, well, if I wasn't here, somebody else would be inputting into this spreadsheet. It just doesn't matter, And so, yeah, I think we all need that purpose. I was asked to answer this question, man. I was asked a few months ago by one of my best friends in town. He runs a financial firm, and he had a bunch of clients retiring. And he said a few of them were saying, Greg, I don't know. I don't want to quit. I'm like scared. I don't know what to do. My whole life I've been doing this. That's my identity. Right. And so he asked me to go to dinner with him. And the question I posed to this group early on was, I think humans need 2 things to feel purpose and feel alive. Just 2 things. And so we need to be growing all the time. And so when you are a teacher, you're having to learn new skills, learn new students, learn, get better, get your craft, grow. So, okay, outside of that, how are you growing? What are you doing to expand you can be growing physically. I'm going to the gym and getting stronger or running or whatever that is. Growing mentally, I'm reading and journaling and becoming a better version, growing spiritually, whatever that is. You got to be growing. And then the second piece that a lot of people miss, you got to be giving. And I think for anybody in any role, man, you could be a janitor at a school. And I've seen guys do this. They're giving every day, dude. They're high-fiving students. Oh, you played a great basketball game last night. They're giving. Doesn't have to always be financially, but that's where I look at the cheat code to life is if you really want purpose, go make other people's day. I had a client call me on a coaching call not that long ago and said, dude, I'm just down and I don't know why. And I said, this is going to be a really short call. I said, you're going to put the phone down here in 1 minute and you're going to text somebody you love how much you're grateful for them and just say, thank you for being a part of my life and this or that. And then you're going to go take a walk and you're going to find one person out along this walk and God's going to put them in your line and you're just going to compliment them and tell them your yard look, whatever it is. I get a text back in 15 minutes. Oh man, I got this text back. It made my day. I met this old lady down on the end of the block that I see always out with her plants. I complimented her on her garden. We chatted a couple minutes. I feel 100 times better. That's a cheat code to life, man. These people that are always sad and depressed and this or that, man, and some of them just chemical things. But for most people, if you want to feel good about yourself, you go give. Yeah. And I use this as a cheat code in the gym, brother. I'll go to the gym tired and I'll sit there and I'll take a breath before I go in and I say, I'm going to go make the front desk guy's day. And I walk in and I high five him and I'm like, bro, Joe, you're always here, man. 5 a.m. club, bro. You must have to get up. What time you get up, Joe? He's like, 3 a.m., Ty. And I'm like, bro, thank you for getting up at 3 a.m. to be here, man. The gym equipment looks great. Bro, I appreciate you, man. Have the best day. Do you know what that does for me, man? It just raises my vibration. It raises his. And I think that's the cheat code to life. If you want purpose, you got to be given. Yeah. And you can do this in your day-to-day life and you can do it on a bigger scale too. But I think those are the two things, growing and giving.
Yeah, I learned this from my dad a long time ago. So one of our core values at our company is everyone you come in contact with should have a better day just because they met you. And my dad was the same way. And I don't know why, but this memory always sticks in my head. And I've taught it to all my sons too. But I just got my driver's license. We were at a gas station, right? Gas was 87 cents. I remember that.
The good old days, man.
Yeah. I was I think I got a couple bucks. That should get me a couple days, And, I pulled into the first one and there was two in front of me and there was somebody behind me. And my dad's like, well, pull up. I'm like, well, he can just wait till we're done. He's like, yeah, don't do that. He's like, you can, so now every time I go to do that is I'm just trying to make someone's day because they probably have, especially when, like you said, at the gym and employees, things like that, for the most part, they've had to deal with issues. And so right. For you to do that, and honestly, I tell my staff, it's more, yes, it's for them, but it's more for you. Because then you're like, we just did this with some woman that had to call us because our carpet wasn't, the guys no called, no showed. And I was here at home and they were supposed to be here. And I was like, no big deal. I get it. I'm a business owner. You can't sometimes, whatever. And she was paused. And I think she was a little surprised because probably what she expected was, And so for me, I feel good now about myself that I actually was able to do that because I could have been a jerk. Right. And so I think that's important, especially today. And I tell my sons, when you're walking around the grocery store, just look at people and smile.
That's right.
And it'll be weird because no one else is doing it.
That's right, man. And even, you alluded to a teacher that's retiring. I mean, can you go tutor kids that are struggling for free in retirement? How good will that make you feel? You're pouring into, you're making the world a better place. Can you, there's always ways to go serve. And I think that just asking yourself those questions, man, is a huge thing. But Brian, that's how we change the world right there, man. I mean, imagine if every human woke up with that mindset tomorrow. Imagine the kind of world we would live in, man. It'd be beautiful, it'd be paradise.
Well, and I think we get, I don't know, hopeless is probably too deep, but maybe not. But I think we get hopeless or that we're not able to make that difference because it's too much. And for me to do it, I can't make the impact that I think I can make. How important it is to make that just, if no one knows, or individually as a day-to-day basis or in your community, how important is that and does it make an impact?
Yeah, I think, man, I look at this through a spiritual lens, I would say, and maybe not all your listeners have this, but for me, that's like the foundation of me. And so I believe, and I journaled this many years back, God put me on this earth to be a light. And that what you said right there is that's my goal. Every room I come in, man, everybody's better for it. And if somebody's going to be really unkind to me, I get an opportunity to do this every day on X with a big following now. If somebody's unkind every day, right?
You don't have a choice now.
Yeah, my goal is always to show kindness back. I succeed at that probably 98% of the time. Sometimes they just hit a button.
Yeah. Sometimes there's some people you just can't.
Yeah, but I think, the ripple effect of this, man, and when you ask that question of, is it really making a difference? Like, I would just say this in a really short sort of story, man. When I was 27, I got cheated on by an ex-girlfriend. I was drinking 6 days a week. And I literally, brother, I was waking up in Chicago, the time I was living there, thinking, I just hope I fall asleep and don't wake up tomorrow. I was so depressed, man. Poker had been, I went from making $250K a year playing online poker. It got banned in the US. I dropped out of college to play it. So I was like losing I basically going to nightclubs every night and spending all the money I had made.
Great idea.
Yeah, really, it was smart, and very purposeless.
That's what you did. Yeah.
Super depressed, man. And it was one guy who was super kind that changed my entire life. And everything I've gotten to do since then was off this one guy, and his name was Colby. And I met him, mutual friends, and he was just jacked out of his mind. He looked like a Greek god. And I asked him, hey, bro, like, how'd you get in such good shape? And we chatted for a minute, and he said, at the time I weighed 149 pounds. And he said, hey, bro, I'll tell you, but why don't you let me show you? Meet me at this gym tomorrow at 5 a.m. And it was like midnight. We were at a bar, and I was like drinking, and I was like,
there's no way.
Oh, that's 5 hours. But I said, okay.
Yeah.
And so I literally met him there, man. And him and his friends and his wife, they met there, and I didn't know it, but he ran the whole gym. He trained Chicago Bears players, and this guy's like been in Men's Health, and he was a beast. And I saw the way he conducted himself and lived his life. And I met him at the gym. He invited me every day. He encouraged me to get my personal trainer. I changed my whole mindset around from negative to positive from that one kind act. And so whenever I see somebody in a low spot or broken, I think about that was 13, 14 years ago. Yeah, and right. So the impact cool. And the ripple effect that that's had on other people because he was kind to me. And I think that ripple effect is where the magic happens, right? Because if I've affected 1,000 people now, and maybe those 1,000 have affected 10 people each, and maybe, or whatever it is, that was all because of Colby. One invite, one guy being nice is really all that took. So I think about that a lot.
How do you, you're such a positive person. You got everything going. And I think a lot of times what I see is people get a little frustrated. They try to go down this path, right? And it happens when you work out. It happens when you try to eat healthy. It happens when you try to stop or cut down on drink, whatever. Maybe you're doing everything right for a couple of months and it's working. But then, things just all of a sudden, things keep happening that maybe at some point, and if you have faith, maybe that's helpful. But either way, it's like, I'm doing all these things right, and it's still coming at me. How do you, and I'm sure, I don't know if this happens to you, but it happens in business, it happens in life too. How do you keep going down that path, or tell people to keep going down that path no matter how hard it is? Because it's not going to be an overnight fix.
Yeah, I always say, like, one of my favorite sayings of all time is, like, if winning was easy, everyone would be a winner and it wouldn't be worth anything. So embrace the suck, man. I love that it's really hard to have a six-pack when you're 41 years old. Like, if everybody had a six-pack at 41, nobody'd look at you and be like, dang, man, that guy's got a six-pack. It's
very hard. Try it at 51. I got a 2.5 pack. I'm doing all right.
to build a business and sustain that, and run employees and a staff and have it be successful is really freaking hard, man. If it was super easy, everyone would do it. And so I always say, man, like, no, you've never heard of Atlas Fitness. You know why? That was my first business. I went 8.5 months and I wrote 3 articles every day, 7 days a week, 21 articles a week for Atlas Fitness. That was going to be my big thing. And I made $212 in about 8 months. So, I didn't quit, but what I did was reframe that in my head and say, you know what? Before I did that, I had never really written. And so I needed that step to get to the next step, because now I write threads on Twitter that are viewed by millions of people. And before that, I wasn't a good writer. And so, hey, maybe God needed me to fail at that, or stumble at that, or just get better at that, perfect that part of the craft to get to the next step. I think life goes in steps and you can't skip the steps sometimes. And everybody's so anxious to get to the end, man, when,
Yeah,
to
there
be
is
honest,
no.
the journey is the most beautiful part. If I could go back to any part in my life, I'd go back to 36 again.
Yeah,
When I had 300 followers, and I got so excited when I got 310, and I was like, and I made the first sale a year later, and I could see the vision in my head. And now I had a tweet a couple months ago, 50 million people saw it, and I got zero dopamine out of it.
yeah. You're like, come on, that's
Matter. Like, you
I
just
do
been
that every
doing it,
day.
right? You
Yeah,
expect it. And so I don't know, man. I think those obstacles happen for you. And if you can change your mind around, again, losers win when winning is easy. When I feel like getting out of bed and going to the gym, like, I'm going to do it. Everybody does it. And so when my alarm goes off, I'm pretty euphoric right now because I just got done running wind sprints,
sure.
to be honest. And so I literally, man, the last thing I wanted to do 40 minutes before this pod was go run wind sprints. It was the last. Like, I'm tired. I'm sore. I didn't feel like it. And I went and ran wind sprints because that's what I told myself I'm going to do today. That's on my training plan. And I tell myself that, well, if I felt like doing it, it almost isn't worth anything, man. That you make the biggest gains when you do the things that other people aren't willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I reframe that in my head as awesome, man. It's hard. Great. What's that? Jocko Willett? Good. You don't feel like getting up? Good.
I know. Yeah, he's
good.
I love his idea of that lead. I've really taken that leadership, his whole idea of that extreme ownership, and at the end of the day, it's always my responsibility, and I like that.
Changed my life.
Yeah,
Books
my dad was
always
my dad was an Army colonel, so that book really resonated with me because he went through that and was a great leader. You talk. It's funny, a couple things that you said too is like we're always trying to get to the end, and I'm guilty of that too. It's kind of like always like, it's gonna be the weekend, or it's gonna be this, but like the only real true end, which I don't want to have come, is when we're dead, and it's coming. I mean, it's it's on its path, and it's headed this way, and for me, it's coming quicker than ever before, and so that's where I think being present and in that moment. So what are some, there's meditation, there's things like this, but, how do you, with intention, with your kids, with your wife, with what you're doing and sitting down to write next or whatever that piece is, what is a good way for us to, because it seems like sometimes you don't even know what to start with. How do we get that intention for whatever that is to make sure that that's what we're focused on at that very moment?
Yeah, the first big piece, man, this is an early mentor taught me this, and I've done this about a little over 5 years in a row without missing a day. Before I go to bed every night, this is the simplest thing ever. I have an alarm that goes off about 8:30 that just says plan next day. And I take 3 minutes and I lay my gym clothes by the door and I look at my stuff and I say, okay, tomorrow I knew already. I shot 2 YouTube videos today after my kids went to school, already had them outlined on my desk, ready to go. I already knew I was going to write and finish this one other thread that I'm being paid for tomorrow. I knew I was going to check in with these clients. The plan's already set.
So it's kind of off your mind at 8:30,
yeah,
8:33.
I don't sit down and think, what am I going to do? Because then I'll pull up Twitter and I'll be on there for an hour. It doesn't move any needle. Yeah. So it's like, my mentor told me, and you run a business, this, you are not coming into the office like, well, what should we sell? What should we work on? You already know, okay, I'm running this staff meeting at 9. I'm checking in with this client here. I'm writing this sales pitch here. You already have it sort of a template. So run your life like that. I run my life like that. So every night before I go to bed, there's a little 3-minute plan. Here's what we're doing the next day. The second piece of that is giving yourself some grace and knowing I got a bunch of young kids right now, man. And so, a big strategy for me on being present and being a present dad. And I'm reading a great book right now called The 5 Types of Wealth by Sahil Bloom, who's just an amazing human being. And he's the keynote speaker at my conference.
I saw that. Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah.
On August 28th through 30th. And so it's an amazing book, man. And he had something in there that just hit me so hard. He said, your hardest day right now, your kids are sick, you didn't sleep, feel like the to-do list is a mile long, the house is dirty. Think of your hardest day. Now pause a moment and think that you're 90 years old. How much would you give to go back to this day? And I'm like, bro, I get chills saying it.
I do.
Like,
I just did. Yeah, billions. I don't
oh
know. There's not a
man,
number.
oh, there's no number, right? And so it's, that has become a very powerful mantra for me. I call it power in the pause. Deep breath, calm that nervous system, and just be here, man. Like this beautiful gift that we get, consciousness and life, and like, bro, the fact that I can just chat with you today, and this is kind of my work day, and then like a playland in my today, and like it's such a gift. And even the hard things are the gift. And even failing at Atlas Fitness, man, was a gift.
Sure.
Every part of the journey is an amazing gift that someday we would give everything to go back to. And if you can sort of program yourself like that and work on that, bro, I don't get stuck in traffic anymore. And I'm angry, but I'm like, what a gift, man. I could like listen to awesome music. I could put on a podcast. Maybe it's me and my kids and I can play peekaboo with them. This is an opportunity. This is amazing. And so
it's just reframing, and it's not, it's just that simple switch. That's one of my sons was struggling, and he was like wondering if he made the right choice. And he's got a great job, but you're 24, you're kind of figuring out like, oh man, I'm getting old. And he's like, yeah, and I just have these thoughts like all the time of like, I didn't do this enough and I didn't do this enough. And I'm like, they're just thoughts. And they're just thoughts. And I said, when you have those, just say that to yourself. Just say, hey, they're just thoughts. And he texted me later, and it was like one of those dad wins, because when they get older, you don't get too many of those. And he's like, hey, that really helped, and I think I need to do a better job at that. I need to do a better job at being present. We always do.
By no means have I mastered this, right? No, this is some days I take 13 of those deep breaths, right? This is by no means am I sitting up here saying like, I'm an expert at this. Like, I'm getting better at this every day, right? That's the goal.
One of the things, just a couple more things. I know your kids are coming home soon. The tweet, sorry, the X or whatever they call it now, is what is it called, an X or a tweet that's pinned at your profile? Really is a pretty open and honest. When you're talking about 11 years ago, whenever it was that you and your wife were fighting all the time, and how, besides obviously there's counseling, things like that. How are you guys now? Intentional? How did you make that switch with each other? Because relationships are hard. I mean, especially as you start to get, my wife and I have been together almost 20 years now. We've gone through 4 kids of all different levels. We got a grandson that's here right now because I'm that old, and she runs her business. I run my business. It's crazy. Yeah. So how did you make that? How did you fix is the wrong word. How did you guys come to the realization that we need to do something? And what is that something?
Yeah, for me, it was realigning my priorities and having a clear vision. And I remember telling her the day, I said, I'm going to become a world-class husband. I'm going to be the kind of husband that you're going to look at. And like, if your friends are saying, my husband, this or that, you're going to have nothing to say. And I said, it's not going to happen overnight, but this is going to be a passion of mine to get better at this. And I'm literally going to like this. I hope she doesn't even watch this because it's kind of embarrassing.
I'm sending it to her. I'm sending it to her and Chase.
I keep a notebook on my wife, like the same way that I do on my clients and business and jot out. Like if we're out shopping and she's, oh, I like that. Yeah. Oh, it's going in my notes. Right? Like I'm going to get better at learning her and like what her love language is and how to fill her up. And so a lot of that is just, this sounds overly simplistic, but like very communicative too. Mm-hmm. So we have a couple days a week where a babysitter comes, and one of those days we just take a 2-hour walk together. We hold hands. This is a non-negotiable every week. And we just ask each other, like, are your needs being met? Is there anything I can do better? What's stressing you out in life? How can I make that better? Like, I'm here to serve and I want to be your biggest helper, right? The second piece of that is being an encourager. Every morning, my wife will wake up to a text message or a video from me. Hey, I love you so much. I saw last night where, I know you're tired. You've been up for 16 and a half hours. You're running your own business too. The kids, I know it. But I saw you tucking Kingston in. I saw you reading the books to him. You're the best mom.
Like, see, and that matters because the thing is,
thank you for all you do.
We don't do that enough.
Yeah, we take it for granted.
And as we get older, and when you're an owner of a company too, like you don't get that credit for those little things, and it's those little things that you do all day long that you just think that you're supposed to do. Like of course she's going to kiss him and read to him, right? or to your,
Yeah.
of course that's going to happen. But I think being recognized that that's pretty special and that's important and it made a huge difference. I think that piece is huge.
Yeah. What generally happens then is like I get a text back that's very similar. You know what? It warms my heart, Ty, when I see you taking the kids to the park, and I'm so grateful for the dad you are. And we kind of lob it back and forth all day like that. Whereas we used to be, why didn't you load the dishwasher that way? Why didn't you do that? Hey, why didn't you do it? It's two different kind of marriages. And so I think it's on guys to take the lead in that. And I tell
Yeah.
guys that all the time that I coach is like, you got to start be her biggest cheerleader, her biggest encourager. I want to give her life. Like this morning, man, my text to her was like, thanks for making the delicious egg wrap that you made. Like I only had a 10-minute window between a bunch of calls yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm downstairs and it's already made and it's like beautiful and I get to scarf it down. I'm like, that meant so much to me. Like, and in the past, I just, again, what you said, I would have taken that for granted. But, well, of course she makes my meals. That's my wife. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, man, I want to take a moment and acknowledge how much that means to me. Like bottom of my heart, thank you. That meant so much. And then you start getting that back. And I think that's when life gets good. The last piece to that is like, keep having fun together. Like I had an early mentor tell me, pretend you're on the second date trying to get a third every day in marriage.
Yeah, that's tough.
Like, what kind of energy would you bring, man? You know, and you'd be flirting with her, you'd be laughing with her. You ain't going to be like farting in front of her and all the stuff that we start doing, you know.
That is pretty funny, though.
Sometimes I get the boys to pull my finger, right? Don't get me wrong. But like, you know what I mean? Bringing that flirty energy with her, and letting her know. Like I always tell my wife, like, bro, my goal is to be like 85 and still like,
100%. Yeah, we can't wait. We joke about that all the time. Like I'm just going to be the most embarrassing. I mean, we'll be that couple that gets off the cruise and have the same shirt on. You know, we see them and we're like, that's us.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, man. And so it's, again, the gift of life, in my opinion, is I can look back to where I was 13, 14 years ago, literally not wanting to wake up the next day.
Yeah,
you always get to make a choice. No matter how low you are, like my dad has this saying, man, he's always like my basketball, baseball, football coach growing up. He's like, win the next minute. Just win the next minute. And if you feel stuck and you feel like, I don't know what I'm doing, you can always take a deep breath and win the next minute. What's that look like? When can I hit this minute? Sometimes it's like, I'm just going to sit here and breathe for a minute.
Yeah.
Sometimes like I'm going to chug a glass of water and just stretch and chill out. I'm going to make a to-do list. I'm going to organize my thoughts. I'm going to text my wife how much I love her. Like, what's winning the next minute look like? And if you focus on those little tiny things, just stack those wins is what I call them. You don't recognize yourself. A year later, 2 years later, 5 years, a long timeline, man. You just don't recognize yourself.
That's awesome. Before we go, I want to start tomorrow. Somebody watching this, no idea what to do. What do I start with?
Contact Brian. Hire a mentor. Hire somebody that's doing it. I mean, I hate to say that, but like it'll save you a decade of spinning your wheels. If you can't afford that or do it, find online communities that are free. Surround yourself and make your environment conducive with who you want to be. That's the biggest cheat code of my life. When I was in a terrible marriage, guess who I hung around with all the time? Other guys in terrible marriages, sitting in bars complaining about their wives.
All the time.
Yeah, so it's like my environment is going to be very conducive to success. The people in my circle, we're all getting fitter, happier, wealthier, being great dads and husbands, following Jesus, reading our Bible. These are the people I'm going to be around. And if you're not going to be one of those people, I will pray for you from a distance. But that's what it's going to be. So find your circle, and you don't have to be there yet. Find people a little farther along in the journey, but it's never been easier. We've got, I could point you to 1,000 people on X right now. Some of them have communities for $10 a month. Some of them have free communities. Some of them, whatever that is, whatever you're at, quit going on Twitter and crap posting and trolling and quit watching Netflix.
So hard.
And seek out people that are doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
And we all have that, man. When you close your eyes, you have that vision of that person you want to be. Write it down, get it on paper. What's one change you can make tomorrow, and how can you start to surround yourself with those people?
Tyler, the thing you said at the top is going to stick with me, and I think that should stick with other people too. At the very beginning, your first piece of advice is go out and make someone's day. And I mean, that's a small little fix that I think anybody that's listening to that is just I think try it. And it's an easy fix.
Yeah,
Tyler, thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. When we run men's retreats out here, I always challenge the guys to do that first day.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, we're going to be out and about in the city, make somebody's day today. And people are like, what's that mean? I'm like, just go find out.
My son, Jack, he's my 20-year-old, and he's like extreme athlete. Like he's a lacrosse player in college and just a beast on the field, but he's the nicest, sweetest kid. And every time he goes to Meijer or a grocery store or wherever, his girlfriend goes with him. She's like, why do you always talk to everyone? He's like, oh, my dad, blah, blah, blah. But he's always just trying to talk to someone. And I was like, it's one of those little things, too, that you see. You're like, all right, maybe I did something, Yeah,
it certainly sounds like you did, man. And you're still doing.
Yeah. Tyler, man, somebody wants to know more about how they can get what you have or learn what you're doing. I know you have retreats. What's the best way to kind of get information?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of free ways, man. I have, 450 videos up on YouTube from everything about being a great father to unlocking a great marriage to health and fitness and mindset tips. So you can come on YouTube, just Tyler Todt. I'm on X literally every single day. I haven't missed a day in 5.5 years tweeting over there at Ty Romper. Those are the biggest two spots. I'm on LinkedIn and some other stuff too, but those are the easiest ways. Just shoot me a message there. Love to connect with everybody, man. Cool. About once a week, I get fired up and I send random people in my DMs videos too. They ask me questions, videos back. So I like.
No, man, I appreciate you, and I appreciate being the 10% of the podcast that you would actually be on. So that made my day. So thanks for that, man. And
it's been super fun, man. I'm honored.
No, super ready to go attack the world right now. So today's going to be a great afternoon. So thanks, Tyler. And if look him up, he's on X. He's everywhere. He's a husband, father of 3. He's an author and a speaker, and he's got a great retreat coming up. So look him up for sure. And again, thank you guys for listening. We love to have you here. If you have a good guest that should be on our show, you know how to find me. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, brother.
All right, man. I appreciate you.